Good evening. This is Dave Abdu. I'm the chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee for the Lawrence City Council. We have a meeting that begins at 7. We do not yet have quorum, so for those of you, your TV and your Facebook is working properly. We are just in a standby mode. So we'll be right with you. John, I believe we have quorum now. Very good. Good evening, everyone. This is the February 10th meeting of the Lawrence City Council Budget and Finance Committee. I'm District Councilor Dave Abdu. This evening, I'm joined by Councilor at Large Pavel Payano and District F City Councilor and City Council President Mark LaPlante. This evening, I would like to begin by asking folks to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
for all.
Everyone, before we get to any official business, I wish to begin with the legal stuff. Bear with me, legal stuff. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted or is allowed, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or to view this meeting can do so via the following access locations, and that would be Facebook and YouTube of the Lawrence City Council. This information is available on the agenda, which has been rightfully posted for 48 hours. And with that, before we get to the first agenda item, I am but the vice chair, and as many of you know at home, and obviously those in the council, the city council president has assumed the role of acting mayor, and the chairman of this committee, Councilor LaPlante, has succeeded him as the acting president of the city council. So with that, I would say to my colleagues, we've been joined by Councilor Rodriguez from District D, and I would suggest to my colleagues we should probably discuss organization at this time before we move into the agenda. I have the gavel by virtue of being the vice chair. However, I think it only right that we have this discussion, and if you so choose, that we elect a new chair or a chair until Councilor LaPlante resumes his role in November. Otherwise, we can proceed. So I will leave it to my colleagues in attendance this evening. Councilors Payano or Rodriguez, any thoughts or motions on what you'd like to do?
Mr. Vice Chair, I'm confused at the question. Are you asking what the procedure should be?
Well, the three of us at this time constitute the committee. for this evening and going forward. We're obviously missing a member. However, I can either continue to chair as the vice, or we can elect a new chair valid through Mr. LaPlante's return in November.
If I might, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Just wondering to see if we can actually, if the full committee can be together to be able to fully discuss this, and that way the other member of the committee have the opportunity to weigh in, as she's not present today. So for today, we might continue with the meeting, and then later on we can fully discuss the possibilities.
Very good.
If that's all right with me, Councilor Payano.
Mr. Vice Chair and Councilor Rodriguez, like I was actually looking at our, who was in the room just to see if our other member was with us. Yeah, I think it would be great if we could have that discussion with all of us. I wouldn't want us to make a decision and, potentially our colleague.
Yep. Yeah. Councilor Levy being with us at the next meeting. Sounds good. So we'll proceed as is for tonight, and any further discussion? Or it's not a formal motion, so do you guys want to have anything else on this, or we'll just put that aside until next meeting? Sounds good. With that, let's move to, I don't believe we have any minutes. I did not see any minutes. I could stand corrected.
Yes, not yet.
Okay, so with that, we'll move to the first of 4 new agenda items for this evening. Item number 1521, the authorization to expend grant funds of 2021 Mass Save Municipal Partnership Program grant from National Grid and Eversource in the amount of $25,000. And that was sponsored by Vilma Martinez Dominguez, the Community Development Director. And I see that we have Ms. Camargo here with us this evening.
Yes.
Ms. Camargo, is it safe to suggest you're here to speak on this matter tonight?
Absolutely. I'm here to represent Vilma and
please.
speak about the Mass Safe Municipal Partnership. Hello, fellow councilors. Good evening. So for the second consecutive year, the City of Lawrence is partnering with All Energy Inc., and it's a nonprofit organization that specializes in executing campaigns to connect residents to Mass Safe programs. All in Energy campaigns basically reaches to residents such as renters, low-income families, non-English speakers, families in multi-family units and buildings. So this grant is really important because Lawrence has a history of low participation rates in energy saving programs. And we really want to encourage our residents and small business alike to take advantage of this energy savings program and upgrades so that they may put those savings back in their pockets. As you know, in 2019, after the Columbia gas disaster, 3 times the percentage of eligible residents in Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence took advantage of the 100% weatherization incentive that was offered. And in 2020, despite the pandemic, twice of percentage of eligible residents took advantage of this program. So together with All in Energy, the city and All in Energy, we'd like to really we're going to design and execute a community-based social marketing program to promote 2 specific programs. One is called the Residential Coordinated Delivery that offers our residents a no-cost home energy assessment, a no-cost air ceiling insulation, and some discounts on heating and cooling. And the second program is called a Small Business Turnkey that offers businesses and local and our church of worship, our local worship, it offers them a no-cost on-site energy assessment. So really good programs there. And so participating in this program is really important. And through the grant partnership, the city will receive $25,000 from National Grid and Eversource to support marketing efforts. $7,500 of that 25 will be given to us at the beginning of the year to start up on some of the promotional materials in Spanish and English, and like something like banners that will be hung on the streets and in multiple locations, and also like yard signs and some it's called publicly visible thermometer kind of signage. So we really are putting our best foot efforts here. And once we accomplish our goals, we'll receive up to the $25,000. And so tonight, we're really asking for City Council to give us a favorable recommendation to approve this expenditure for these grant funds.
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Camargo. I would open the floor at this time to my colleagues for questions.
To you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Anna, thank you for being here tonight. It is a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you.
Anna, last year we had this opportunity for the discussion of a grant similar or probably the same grant that actually we partner with a local organization to be able to promote these programs. In terms of numbers, compared to the previous 2 years, how successful the program has been, how many residents we have reached out through these expenditures through the program, and how successful the program has been in terms of numbers, not just percentage, but numbers. We know for sure that we have almost about 100,000 residents, and most of them apply and qualify. So in terms of number, how many people we have reached?
The only numbers I have on hand right now are last year's numbers in regards to what our goal was and what we actually achieved and what our goal will be this year. I can give you that. So in 2020, our goal for a small business turnkey was 32. We only accomplished 17. Now keep in mind, in 2020, we had the pandemic. So all our outreach efforts, which was person to person, was really put aside because of the social distancing rule. Let's see, under online energy assessment, our goal was 140, we did 136. In weatherization, our goal was 424, we actually did 348. And in heating and cooling systems, our goal was to 244, and we did 166. So again, this is all reflective of the pandemic and what we were able to do during those times. Now, this year's goal is a little bit, some are higher and some are lower. And we're really putting our efforts in doing some digital print marketing, both in English and Spanish, that's email, and really working with our partners to identify some key areas to market. There's also, I understand that there's a field team that's going to hit the ground once, the COVID regulations kind of loosen, and they're going to be the door knocking or trying to really promote this. And I understand that there's a hybrid option in reaching families, so that rather than go in fully and sit down with the families and go over the whole program, which can take a good hour and a half, what they're doing is they're doing some of the things virtual or on the phone, where the person may be sitting outside your garage and saying, okay, show me some pictures, let me walk you through. And then when they're ready to go in, they'll tell them, okay, we'll go to another part of the home and I'll go in and check and do the actual assessment. So it's really trying to make take some precautions there through the COVID, and really focusing on a lot of the material in bilingual outreach.
So let me ask you, just I know that you have mentioned it already, but I mean,
yeah.
So the grant is only specifically for the contact, not necessarily to do the assessment.
It's to do the assessment. That's what's offered for residents.
Okay,
It's
so
the assessment and discounts and insulation.
So once that organization reach out to the client, to the resident,
Mm-hmm.
Are they promoting a program, or they promoting a specific people that they coming in to do the work and charge must save, or they just providing the information and getting you in contact with whoever going to do the work?
They have, okay, so I went through the program. I can testify for me when I went through the program. So they go in and do the assessment, and they do have a list of lenders that are throughout the different cities or towns. So like, for example, they'll offer me the installation for free. But if I need, like, say, to replace my air conditioning or my boiler or something like that, they have a list of contractors, I'm sure. You can choose your own. I mean, I was told I can choose whoever, as long as I come in with a bid. And so then I would go to a bank, a local bank, and they would offer me a 0-interest loan. So there isn't any specific agency that they promote or they steer people into. It's really up to the resident to decide where they go to. They need to come up with a bid, though, like a price of where they want to choose to go to for the contractor.
Because I'm asking you because I have participated in that program several times.
Oh, good.
About 3 times. Not through the city, obviously, but just going through the website, finding people that are doing the free assessment, and
Right.
bring them home and be able to discuss that. But they promote a specific business that they have on their company, and they doing that for free. So I'm just wondering to see if what we doing, if we're promoting if they're promoting their own businesses through public money, which make that situation a little kind of like, not to the spectrum of what we asked to do.
Right, right.
So
I'm not
that's why
aware of
I asked
any.
you.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any specific company that we're promoting. I can definitely check and follow up, but as far as what the agreement is, I don't see that at all in the language at all. Again, it's just we're promoting a service. We're asking our residents to take advantage of this Mass Save program. So we're not directly telling them to go any specific place, just directly informing them of this program that's really advantageous to them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's the city because you actually
Right.
RFP this money. It's not you. It's not the
Okay.
city, obviously. But I just wondering because I mean I have other experience with non-for-profit organizations here in Lawrence that actually run the same program, and essentially that organization do a good job, but people ended up getting the services 6 months after they get in touch with those providers.
Mhm.
Difference than getting in touch with somebody that is privately owned, you get your services within 2 weeks. So that's another thing that concerns me. Because at the end of the day, those are public funds that are available those are funds that are available to the clients, to the residents of those companies. And the point is for everybody to take advantage of those programs because they're great. It's a great program.
Yes, yes. I mean, we're paying for it in our utility bills.
Exactly. So whoever is not taking advantage of it is losing money.
Yes.
So if we as a city don't advocate aggressively, and then we might putting people into losing money.
Yes, and we definitely want to encourage them to save that money.
So at
Absolutely.
the end of the day, what I want to say is that the program has to be to aggressively target people and not necessarily promote companies behind that organization that are going to have the RFP.
That's what is our understanding, and that's where we're focusing our efforts. Is just the outreach, getting the people to be able to go online, sign up, making them aware of all these savings, and that's really what we're about. I mean, to encourage them because, just like you said, it's a great deal for them to be able to promote it. And I think one of the things that renters are confused about is that do I need my landlord's permission and authorization? And that's what we're focusing is like a bottom up kind of strategy where we go target the tenants and say, no, you don't need the landlord's authorization. You can do this on your own too. So yes, we will do that. as well.
So if anybody at home is watching this meeting and have the opportunity to discuss this, essentially what we're discussing is a Mass Safe program that is
Mhm.
going to be promoted through an organization in Lawrence to help out promoting the whole program. But they can definitely get in touch, go to the website, go to the Mass Safe website, and actually get information there and get a contractor or a
Mhm.
company that goes to your house and do a free assessment
Right.
in terms of energy saving. With that, they change all the bulbs, they change the thermostat,
Yep, the shower heads.
the
Mhm.
shower heads, the tablets for the electrical tablets.
Mhm.
Also they do like you mentioned the insulation throughout the house for a fee, for a smaller fee than the regular
Yep.
companies.
Mhm.
And that's very important. So Mass Safe is a great program, and this is an opportunity to promote it as well. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you, Ms. Camargo. Mr. Payano, did you have any questions? Concerns? All right. At this time, I'll entertain any motions.
Motion to send it to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Definitely second it.
There's a motion by Council Payano. It's seconded by Council Rodriguez. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I would ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Roll call for document 15-21
Yes.
that was sent to the full council with favorable recommendation. Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Abdu.
Vice Chair votes yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Camargo. Appreciate your help tonight.
Have a good night.
You're welcome. Next item this evening is item number 1621, SEIU Local 3 Inspectors Union Collective Bargaining Agreement Funding Approval. And it's being presented this evening by Mr. Mark Ianello, who is with us. Mr. Ianello, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, councilors. Before you is a request for funding of the new collective bargaining agreement with the Inspectors Union. In addition, there's also, as part of our negotiations, we created 2 new positions. And if you notice on my cover letter requesting a council items for the council agenda for February 2nd, I had requested 2 items, one for the funding and one for creating the positions. But I didn't get the second. There isn't a separate item on the agenda for the number 2. So I was wondering if as part of tonight, the committee could vote to split item 1621 into item A, or item A for funding a collective bargaining agreement, and item B, which is number 2 in my memo, to approve the ordinance of 2 new positions negotiated with the union. So that's kind of something I was hoping we could accomplish tonight. Let me just explain basically what the Inspectors Union contract entails. So there's my cover letter, which explains it requires a transfer of from prior year reserves and current year reserves of $60,000. And that's to be appropriated into the code enforcement building code and weights and measures portions of the ISD budget. The also attached to my memo is a brief synopsis of summarizes the 3-year collective bargaining agreement. And I'll just go over the highlights. It's a 3-year agreement, 7/1/19 to 6/30 of 22. 6/30 of 22. Also, there are now, once they're ordinanced, we negotiated to have 2 new job classifications, Code Enforcement Official Health, Safety, and Equity 1, and a Code Enforcement Official Health, Safety, and Equity 2. I'll have Michael Armano, I believe, is on the call, and he can explain what the purpose of those 2 positions are. But that's a highlight of these negotiations were we're creating those two new titles and merging the existing employees into those two titles, which Michael Armano can speak to. In addition, we made a change to the on-call rotation. There's a weekly assignment and they're receiving 6 hours pay a time and a half for taking that duty, being on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In addition, we have just some language that in case there's any sick leave abuse, it allows us to, the contract allows us to talk to our employees about sick leave abuse. There's also a change with the union's permission to extend a probationary period an additional 3 months. Currently, it's a 6-month probationary period. In addition, there's a working out of class designation so that if somebody is working in a higher classification, they receive at least 5% more than their current rate of pay. In addition, we have a health insurance opt-out, whereas the present plan was $1,200. We're changing it to if they opt out of our health insurance plan, for a single plan, it would be a lump sum payment of $1,500 and $2,500 for a family plan. And then the cost of living increases are 1.5% per year for FY 2021 and 22. And that's in line with all the other unions that we've negotiated with. In addition, you'll find is my CAFO certification as Chief Administrative and Finance Officer. I have to certify to the city that we can afford this collective bargaining agreement. So that's my certification that follows. And then following that is the actual memorandum of understanding. It's 9 pages. So that's the signed agreement that we have with the inspectors union. And lastly are the job descriptions for the health, safety, and equity 1 and the health, safety, and equity 2 positions. So with that, that's my presentation. So if I could indulge if the councilors could indulge me and see if we can split that item into A and B, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll just ask that it come on a future, the creation of those 2 positions come on a future city council agenda.
Sure. So, Mr. Iannello, what I would like to do is allow the councilors to ask questions, discuss it as a whole, and I will solicit from them at the end of the discussion whether they want to split it in 2. You also referenced Mr. Armano as being a caller. I do not see Mr. Armano as a caller.
Geez, I'd be surprised if he's not on. Unless he got held up with COVID. Well, I apologize for that. I know he planned on being on the call. We talked about it on Monday, and I can kind of explain what the purpose of the positions are. Since Michael Armano has been with the ISD, he's been trying to, presently they have a code enforcement officer, they have a food inspector, they have a sealer of weights and measures, they have a building inspector, and then they have a gas and plumbing inspector. So I think there's 5 or 6 job titles that are currently in this union. And his plan was to, because they kind of do an all hands on deck, particularly with the COVID, all the members of the union have been all hands on deck, and they kind of been helping each other out in any area that's required to get us through this pandemic. So Michael had the idea, and we got through lengthy negotiations with the union to make sure they understood what he was trying to do, and what he was trying to do is eliminate the current positions and move those the people in the positions into either a health, safety, and equity 1 and health, safety, and equity 2. Basically, the difference between the 1 and the 2 is everybody that existing now would qualify for the health, safety, and equity 1, and those with certain licenses, which are covered in the job descriptions below, then they would be eligible to be a health, safety, and equity 2. And the salary difference is, $2,000-$3,000 more if they have those designations. Plus the health, safety, and equity 2 is eligible for the on-call rotation. So that's 6.5 hours of overtime per week. So that's another benefit to the health, safety, and equity too. And what what Michael Armano was trying to accomplish is that now everybody kind of has the same job title. So if a code inspector, someone who's handling code inspections now, if their food inspections are behind, or if somebody's there's an influx of something, then a code inspector can help with the food inspector's work, and vice versa. So having all the same job titles melds all the job descriptions together, except for the designation, as I just indicated, between the 1 and the 2. The 2 has certain licensure requirements, and 1 everybody's eligible for. So that's in a nutshell what the 2 positions are. Michael can describe it much more passionately and eloquently as how it operates in the department. But as being part of the bargaining team, that's my general understanding of what his desire was and his vision for the department. And we were able to successfully negotiate that with the union. And one of the things we agreed to was right now there are some positions that are in a job group 8 or 9, and we agreed to move upon passage of the collective bargaining agreement and funding that we would move those employees to a grade 11. And then grade 11 will be HS&E 1, and grade 13 would be HS&E 2. So it was just to accomplish a vision for the ISD director, and the employees were for it as long as we they agreed on the job descriptions and so forth. So it seems to be a win-win for the employees, and helps Michael manage the department.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rhino. Just so we're all clear, so there are 6 current inspectors.
No, I believe there's more than 6. There's 6 positions, but there's I'm going to say there's 13 or so.
Okay, so the total of 13, and they fill these 6 positions: code, food, weights, plumbing, gas, and water.
No, it's code, food. I'll go kind of in order as I can see. Code, food, weights and measures, building inspector, plumbing and gas inspector, and I believe there's an assistant, although it's vacant, there's an assistant weights and measures position in this union.
And so these 2 would be additional, and they would be, if you will, the starting position, the entry level positions, and can be utility players supporting any one of those fields, correct?
So basically the code position, the food position, and the sealer and the assistant sealer weights and measures position would now become, those positions would all become HS&E 1s. The building inspectors and the gas and plumbing inspector, they would become HS&E 2.
Okay, I guess I'll save my questions for Mr. Armano. No disrespect.
Yeah.
But my further questions would be kind of granular in the sense that, wouldn't this lead to confusion? During the gas incidents in 2018, when I was working throughout the district, people knew that the gas inspector was Glenn Fleming, and they knew the difference between that individual and any other individuals coming and going. Obviously, a very unique situation. I just worry sometimes that we as municipalities and governments get a little too sterile or too, I don't know what the word is, but if you're a gas inspector, everyone knows what you do. Your job title says it all, right? If you're food, it just, I just wonder why we want to get away from, I realize you want some utility in the positions, but there's also, the constituent facing aspect of this. And I realize you're the CAFO. This isn't.
Yep.
This isn't your language.
Yeah, and again, it is better reserved for Michael to answer. But in general, basically, there wouldn't be just one food inspector. There would be, might be one food inspector who specializes in the food. But to be a food inspector, there's a class and some training they each go through. And the plan would be to have many, and other people in the department have already gone through the training. That's why they can supplement the food inspections. And it's the same thing with the code inspections, is my understanding from Michael, is many of the employees who are not code inspectors have still gone through the code inspector training. So they can kind of supplement each other or help each other out when there's to make the department more efficient. And that's basically what Michael's trying to accomplish. So instead of just having only the building inspectors doing building and code doing code, they can kind of each do each other's work. So it helps when there's a bottleneck in the office. So for some workflow perspective, Michael also has a more eloquent answer as far as, the operations of the department and what the titles would mean. So he can best answer that, most of your questions, but I'm just giving you what it is in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Iannello. Appreciate it. Colleagues, your questions. Councilor Rodriguez.
Vice Chair? Yeah. Well, the first thing we need to do is a parliamentary procedure, which is splitting the item. But with that said, those items I believe should be ordinance for those. So I don't think this is the right committee. We can split it and send it back with the intention of sending it to the ordinance committee, and that way they can discuss the ordinance for these positions.
Mhm.
And out of the ordinance, they can have the next step, which is the posting. We have the posting in front of us, but we don't know how the ordinance look like, I guess. So I have no issues splitting up the item. It's up to the councilor. So I make a motion to split item 16/2021 into A and B.
There's a motion by Councilor Rodriguez. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Mr. Payano. Discussion. No, I think that's discussion from the vice. Is I plan on supporting you, Councilor Rodriguez. And so Ms. Halloran, you got the motion that upon its vote, 1621A would stay here. And we would send 16, or well, that is that your plan, Mr. Rodriguez, is 1621 stays here?
Yes, the agreement should stay here.
Okay.
The posting, the ordinance for the postings should go to ordinance, I guess. That's what I think. I don't know if splitting it at this point or sending it back and then go back to ordinance is the right thing, or just putting a new item on the agenda with those two positions. It's up to the author, it's up to the administration how they want to do it. But I mean, we can split it at this point. We're just not going to be able to approve the postings at this.
That's right.
On this level.
Okay. So we'll send so then this motion upon passage would send 1621B to the full council to be sent to ordinance.
I guess, yes.
And Mr. Iannello, if I could, this discussion, that would mean another 2.5 weeks of process. Is there any urgency to the passage of the overall 1621, the money? You're muted, Mr. Iannello.
Sorry about that. Once we vote on the funding, we can begin getting the guys any retro that's eligible and increasing their pay once the council approves the CBA. The changing of the positions we'd be hold off on that until the ordinance and the full city council approved the ordinance of those two positions. This is similar to what we did a few months back. We had created a new position as part of our bargaining team for the parking attendants union, and we held off on creating that new position until the the position was ordinance. So we took that. That's why we intended to do that here with these two new positions. We knew they had to go to ordinance.
So with A, moving forward, that allows you to continue, and B, would not allow it to actually be, for it to happen until ordinance and the council vote on B.
So
Yeah.
for A, I have a few questions, but I mean, it's
Sure.
like you know, about the department. So I don't think Mark will be able to help me because it's an operational question.
Okay.
So another thing that I wanted to ask, another question I have. So this agreement was signed by the mayor, by former mayor Dan Rivera and Ruano, but I don't see nothing from that local 3 signing it. So if this is something that it's
I have the signed, at the time we submitted it, we didn't have the union wouldn't sign off until the mayor signed off first, but I do have, I'll pull it up. I do have a new agreement signed with the union signing off on it because the inspectors union ratified and then they had to wait for the union official to sign it. So I do have that signature.
and that was signed by the union when?
I'm going to pull it up. Hang on one second. Here it is. Of course, it's always the last file. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can give you a date, or if the union dated it. It's signed on January 8th, 2021.
Okay. So since then, did you discuss this new agreement with the new mayor?
Yes,
He's on board with that.
yes.
Do you mind if we send something to the council once we send it over to the full council if we do? Because I want to make sure that all the steps have been covered with the new administration. And,
Well, yeah, I can have him send something, but I did, when I submitted this to the council, I did it with the permission of Mayor Vasquez, and I did CC him in the email, so he knows about this contract and about the 3-year nature of the contract. I discussed this when he first came into office, but I can have him send something or
Yeah,
ask his chief of staff to send something.
yeah, some type of memo. I agree with this because I mean it's to be fair to the process. We don't know if it's gonna bring some legal repercussion. Probably not, but I mean just to be covered. Another thing that I have a question on the agreement. It says when it comes to that on-call personnel that is gonna be, that person is gonna get 6 hours overtime right away. It's been assigned to the on-call duties, or it's gonna be once the person get a phone call or something related, or it's just automatically.
No, my understanding is they get 6 hours at time and a half on a weekly basis for being in charge of the cell phone, and they have to carry with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be available in case the police, fire, or any city department needs them.
So everybody?
So no, it's just one. It's just one person is going to be assigned the on-call duties. One person
And-
and the inspectors, and that's what
And
he'll get.
fire
And then
department, that person it's gonna be only one person.
there's one person in ISD that gets that is in charge of being on call.
Usually that phone rotates to every member or a few members in case something happens.
Well, and if in my little synopsis is what it calls for. Weekly on-call assignment shall receive 6 hours pay at time and a half. In the absence of qualified volunteers, the city shall assign up to 8 qualified bargaining unit members based on inverse seniority to the on-call rotation. So there is a rotation of the employees on a volunteer basis. So whoever, it won't be the same employee every single week, but one employee handles it for a week, and I think somebody would be assigned for it the following week, and so on.
So, and let me see if I understand it correctly. So 6 hours out of the 40, out of the 37 and a half hours, are gonna be time and a half, or 6 hours extra on top of the regular schedule hours are gonna be an hour and a half.
Yeah, they work 38 and a quarter hours per week. And the person who's handling the phone and being on call and being available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that person will receive 6 hours pay at time and a half.
Extra.
Extra, exactly, in addition to their regular pay.
Okay, so it's 6 hours overtime.
Yes, and then there is a provision, I believe, also. Pretty sure that this union has it, but I believe then if they actually have to get called in to do an inspection or something, they also get overtime for the time they're doing the inspection. I think it's a minimum of either 3 or 4 hours.
Interesting. I never seen that before, but I mean, it is what it is. Usually when you have the phone and you get called and then you get paid. Or not just to carry it.
Well, in this case, it's to, most of our unions, I believe, have the on-call assignment that works that way. They get an on-call stipend, basically, which is equivalent to so many, either a flat fee or overtime at number of hours guaranteed. And then when they get called in, they also get overtime for getting called in, because normally they don't get called in. It's just to answer the phone call or make sure someone can, it may not be them, but you just assign another inspector to go do an inspection, but at least they have to take the phone call and satisfy whatever needs there are in the city. Again, that's my understanding. Michael Armano can more eloquently explain exactly how the on-call rotation works and what they do and how they get paid.
I just want to make sure that it's a fair process throughout. If somebody's on call and it's qualified, whatever, it's rotated within the qualified people.
Okay.
Another question that I have, that's more technical. So essentially, we're going to change titles, but duties are going to be within those titles. So we're not going to lose the building inspector, perhaps, because we're not call it like that, right?
We're changing the title, but for example, Health, Safety, and Equity 1, just looking at the duties real quickly, duties include areas in food, sanitary, public health, weights and measures, building and building inspections. And it has a bunch of, again, Michael is very detailed: inspection of all food and drink establishments, inspection of sanitary health codes, and there's a paragraph for that, inspection of weights and measures and what that entails. So the job description is quite detailed as to what will be included in the HS&E 1 and the HS&E 2.
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. So before I call the vote, again, this is 1621 split in two with a vote of favorable recommendation to send A up to the full council with a recommendation, and B to be sent to ordinance for the 2 new positions.
Clarify, Mr. Vice Chair.
Ms. Payano,
Thank you. To send to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
is that correct, Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, the intention is to split, and then we can discuss how we want to, split and send B to the full council, and then A, we can discuss how we want to do it.
Okay, got it. I understand.
So now I'm confused. So A, but you.
A, we discuss it up here. Yeah. A, we discuss it up here until we decide. We haven't had the discussion yet. And then B can go out and send it to eventually ordinance, because we're not going to discuss it.
So,
In the meantime, we're focusing on the discussion for A, which is
So
the
B-
agreement.
so 21A, 1621B, I'm clear on. A, your motion is to keep it here.
No. I haven't made a motion on A yet.
Friendly
Actually, we
friendly
can
amendment.
discuss
Friendly amendment, Councilor Rodriguez. What if? Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. What if on A, so instead of just having to do 2 motions, I think that there was great discussion. I fully understand what we're doing. I'd like to make a friendly amendment that we send A to the full council with favorable recommendation,
No problem.
and B, without any recommendation, for the president of the council to send to ordinance.
Yeah, that's not an issue. I just didn't know if the discussion was done on A.
Sounds,
Yeah. That's
okay. So before we call the vote, Ms. Halloran, do you have all of this, the original vote and the friendly amendment? And
Yes, I just have a question. I know A is going to the full council with favorable recommendation. And B, is that going to the full council as well and then send it from there to the ordinance?
that's the recommendation, is for it
Okay.
to go to ordinance.
Okay. Got it.
Very good. Call the vote. Clerk, if you would, call the roll.
Roll call for document 1621A that was sent to the full council with favorable recommendation, and 1621B that was sent to the full council without any recommendation to be sent to the ordinance. Councilor Rodriguez,
yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Vice Chair Abdu.
The vice votes yes.
Thank you. Motion.
That's a-
So Mike, make sure that we have that quick letter on the mail.
I'll ask him to send it. Yes.
So for the record, that passed 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Ainello, but actually, I think we're going to see you again at the end, right? We've got you for 2120.
That's not me, but I'll stay on. There's a transfer from free cash. Somebody from the mayor's office or economic development will explain that one.
Okay, before we let Mr. Ainello go, is there anyone here from economic development?
Yes, Esther Encarnacion is here.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll be with you in just a moment. But beforehand, and you're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Ainello. And we move on to 1921, authorization to expend grant funds of MassDOT grant assurances in the amount of $68,544. And this is brought to us this evening and will be presented by Michael P. Miller, Airport Manager. Mr. Miller,
Mr. Chairman,
favorite
Councilor.
constituent?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
My favorite constituent, please.
I
Don't
appreciate
tell
that.
Brian DePena. I always tell Brian DePena.
Well, I appreciate that. Councilors, I am before you this evening seeking approval of grant assurances that the State Aeronautics Division is asking that the Airport Commission and the city sign and approve for funding they're giving us to conduct a construction project on the airport. We will be replacing our antiquated electrical vault. And what the electrical vault is basically the electrical nerve center for the airport. We have constant current regulators inside that vault that control the taxiway and runway electrical circuits, as well as navigational aids, airfield lighting, and pilot to ground radio controls. The vault is over 30 years old. It needs extensive upgrades, and it is being timed to coincide with the state hoping to give us a new administration building as well. And they plan on placing the building in close proximity to the existing old electrical vault. So they came up with the idea of relocating a new vault away from that newer building and upgrading all the infrastructure within the vault for us, which we're very appreciative. On my memo, you would see that the project's total cost is $972,739. The federal government is giving us, through the FAA, through an airport improvement grant, $877,058. The state will be giving $68,544, and the airport has, in a project already established, its share of $17,137. So for $17,137, we're getting close to $1 million worth of investment in the airport. We're very happy with that. As with everything, with the money comes the strings. The state is seeking these assurances to be executed by the Airport Commission, which they have already adopted, and the city, through its city council, that if I could summarize the 10-page document, basically that the Airport Commission and the city will continue to operate the airport in furtherance with federal and state laws, and basically will not interfere with its operation without getting prior written approval from the state. So that is what the assurances basically summarize to. I'm available for any questions if the councilors have any questions.
Councilors, Questions?
Yes, Mike, through you, Mr. Chair. Mike, can you repeat the latest portion that you state?
The portion that the airport commission will be paying, it's $17,137.
And then after that, you say the state wants some assurance.
The state wants assurances from the airport commission and the city that we will not interfere with the operation of the airport. They will continue to operate it in conformance with federal and state regulations and laws. And in return for that, they will give us $68,554.
So basically, essentially, the commission will be completely independent, nothing related to the city. That's what it is.
No, it's not saying that. It's saying that they will continue to operate the airport and they won't violate federal law or state law, and they won't do anything that would harm the airport as an airport without getting prior state approval first. Same thing from the city side. You would have to seek their approval if you wanted to close it, if you wanted to sell out pieces of it, if you wanted to restrict its use or anything of that nature. All of that is prohibited under federal and state law, but you would have to seek their approval if you wanted to do that.
You all set, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, you're gonna read the agreement very well. There is a couple of clarifications that he put on there. I wanted to make sure.
Very good. Mr. Payano, do you have any questions or motions?
So I don't have any question. This sounds great. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for for bringing this on. I feel like this year I haven't not this year, last year I didn't visit the airport, but I used to go in for breakfast all the time. But thank you for the work that you're doing, and I would like to make a motion to send to the full council with favorable recommendation.
There's a motion by Mr. Payano. Is there a second?
So that's the thing. I don't know if I wanted to second it since I work for my duty, and that could be a conflict of interest. So that's why I wanted to read the agreement before I go forward with seconding it.
Very good.
To make sure that there is no issue there.
So go ahead, Mr. Payano.
Mr. Vice Chair, what I was gonna maybe advise us that we table it for now. If by the end of the meeting, Councilor Rodriguez sees that he's able to second it, we bring it forward, and if not, we maybe the Vice Chair can ask for this to be put onto old business, and we can bring it out that way.
Yep.
Exactly. We could pull it up.
That's excellent.
So I'd like to make a motion that we table this item.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to table this matter. It's been seconded. There is no discussion. All those in favor, roll call, please.
Roll call for document 1921 that was tabled. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano,
Yes.
Vice Chair David Abdu.
Present. The vice votes present.
Thank you.
Right. That matter is tabled 2-0.
Councilors.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Yep.
And the final new item of the evening is item number 2120, the appropriation transfer from free cash to economic development COVID account 1910-5725-52712 in the amount of $500,000, and that was sent down by Mayor Kendris Vasquez. And this evening we are joined by Ms. Encarnacion. And
Yes.
We turn it over to you. Tell us why we're here discussing this evening.
Yes, good evening, councilors. I come before to you tonight because we're asking for these additional funds. We've been working with the businesses, small businesses in the city. However, there are new businesses that have not been able to get any funding, not even PPP, EIDL, because of the lack of business history and requested documentation. Also, we have a small nonprofits in our city that have been negatively impacted by COVID, and they have not qualified for any programs. Even the small business relief that the city currently has, they do not qualify because the target is for-profit businesses. And also with this funding, we're planning to advertise this help to be able to even support our local radio programs that actually depend on advertisement from businesses. And because of the pandemic, they have been really impacted. So the goal is to be able to support those areas in our community. And even speaking about that, it's going to be used for rental and utility assistance, payroll, inventory support, and then, as I mentioned, marketing and advertisements.
Are there questions for Ms. Encarnacion? Mr. Payano, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, Mrs. Encarnacion, for being here with us and you know, letting us be aware of this proposal. So it sounds like this is not a new program. It's a program that has been ongoing, and what we're asking for is to take money out of free cash to support that program. Is that correct? Is it an ongoing program, or is this a new program?
So we have the Small Business Relief Grant that is coming from CDBG funds. And so we're trying to propose additional support, but it will be a different program, because with the CDBG funds, as I mentioned, is for existing businesses. So this is one that will be supporting the ones that didn't qualify. So it will be a grant managed by the city, but is targeting, and they wouldn't have so many requirements, because right now with CDBG, you have to provide 2 years of taxes if you have employees, and too much supporting documents. So for this one is for those new businesses that have used all the money that they have to start a new business, and because of the pandemic, they are like barely making it. So we want to make sure that we have some support for them and nonprofits. So it's a new program, but continues to support small businesses.
So the only thing, so I will say that I support the premise 110%. You know, the one thing that I'm looking for is something that spells out this a written document that spells out the program and spells out the process. So what I'm hearing is that it's not all business, it's some businesses. And how are you delineating who these new businesses will be?
So right now I have a list of 80 plus businesses, existing businesses in the city that they haven't qualified as well. So we're gonna look at, first of all, supporting, based on the supporting documentations, we're gonna support new businesses, and we will ask them, have you qualified for any support from either the SBA? Have you qualified for the state grant that just closed? So if they haven't qualified for anything, they will be able to apply for this funding. So it's for those that they don't have the right credit history, that are new businesses, and then small nonprofits that has not qualified either. So that will be the main criteria.
So how do you define new businesses? Can I start up a business today and apply to this program?
Today, no, but we will qualify them based on any business that began on after March 2020, and that have not qualified for any support. That will be the main criteria.
So March 1st, 2020 until when?
We will say through December, and we can always adjust it, but we will say through the end of January 31st, 2021. So any new business that have opened up, that they have a physical location. So if you have a business out of your house, no, but if you have a physical location that you're paying rent, that you have a lease, and that you prove that you need the financial support, you will qualify.
Okay. That sounds great. I think, yeah, especially before, if this moves out from this committee, I think before it gets to the city council, I would love to see this, like what you just said, in like in a written document. So that way, because I think it's important for anyone that applies. I mean, it could be that someone applies and they don't it's clear that they don't meet the intent of this, but if there isn't something that's transparent, that they can, you know, that if they come and they call us, we can easily say like, listen, man, like the rules say A, B, C, and D, and unfortunately, you don't meet those qualifications. So I think that's why, you know, I foresee that there might be certain businesses that, I mean, everyone's hurting. So if they hear that there's certain support, I can see some businesses kind of going your way, and perhaps not meeting what the intent of this was for, and that ambiguity might cause issues in the future. So, so on that end, so are there any other sort of like points on how you're going to be evaluating these businesses? Is it basically like any business whatsoever that opened up, March 1st, between March 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2020?
Yes, so that will be one of the criteria, especially having a physical location. That's very important because
Co-location.
Because what happens right now is we have many examples. People have closed their locations and are working out of their houses. So we want a business that has a physical location that customers can go to and receive a service. So those will be the ones that are really hurting right now. And also, as I mentioned, nonprofits. And that criteria will be a nonprofit, even if they have been formed before March 1st, 2020, they will also be able to apply because, as I mentioned, they have not received a lot of support to many of the initiatives. Even if they received PPP, because it was based on their payroll records, it was so small. The average amount of money that a small business in Lawrence received is less than $5,000 through PPP.
Sure. So I think, so if we can stick with the small businesses first and then move on for the criteria for the criteria for the nonprofits. So for the small businesses, so far we've heard physical location, we've heard the starting time. Is there any other criteria for the small businesses? Like I think in one of the things that I've read in the purpose, it says that it's also like if they've gotten any PPE, then they wouldn't qualify. But I'm hearing from you, it sounds like that they might.
Yes, because if as I mentioned, 5,000 is not enough to support payroll for some of these businesses, and so they have to provide also financial need, and that's what we ask. Even with the programs that we have, we ask them to provide proof of that they're behind the rent, so letters from the landlords, invoices, and utilities, as is mentioned here. And also, one of the criteria that we can implement, as many of the initiatives that we have, is based on the number of employees they have. So if a business is self-employed, like one person, they might not qualify as one business that has 8 people and is really struggling. So if they are able to, based on the number of employees, that also can provide them more income. And as I mentioned, this is not a huge grant amount. It will be between 500,000. Then the maximum amount will be 10,000 that we're planning to give businesses, but every little amount of money helps.
Okay, so it sounds, but I just want to just make it clear that this is what you're presenting is slightly different than what was sent to us regarding the small businesses. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure that one of my colleagues will correct me. So regarding, so I hear you mentioned the 8 employees. Is that also going to be a criteria that they can't be more than 8 or less than 8?
Oh, that's just an example, but based on how many employees they have, that will put them in a better position to get up to the maximum of 10,000.
Okay, so okay, can we just make sure that in whatever written document is presented to the council, yes, that there's just a line on that, like explaining, so that way, because again, I'm sure some people are going to ask, what did that person get 10? What did I get 5,000? So if that's going to be a determination between the 5 and the 10, I think it'd be important to state that. Now, it sounded from the proposal that was sent out that it was it's either some people are getting 5,000 or people are getting 10,000. Is it possible that people might get less than 5 or somewhere in between?
We were targeting at least 5,000, and as I mentioned, it's because of, so that's what we were trying to do, like a minimum of 5,000 to a business.
Okay, so it sounds like people could get 3,000.
The target is fine.
We say from 5 to 10,000. So it's like the minimum will be 5,000.
Okay, so the minimum is the minimum that, okay, so it'd be great to have that clear as well. So the minimum is 5,000, but somebody could get, so it's basically between $5,000 to $10,000.
Yes.
So they could get $7,000.
Yes, and that's where we will see based on their needs and their supporting. Like we will have clear documentation that if you are 6 months behind your rent, and you're about to be, you're getting notifications to quit and all that, it's based on what supporting documentations they have provided.
Okay, great.
And we can define guidelines.
And I love guidelines. You said, what about guidelines?
That we will have clear and defined guidelines indicating, okay, this person, if you've been in business, you have X number of employees, you're behind your rent, utilities, and all this. So that will give them points. So it will be like a matrix, giving them a ranking to say how much money they will get.
Great. Can we provide those guidelines?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I think, one of the issues, again, like loving the intent, one of the issues that I was presented with this is just not seeing the right processes. And I think like having clear guidelines will go a long way to just ensuring transparency, ensuring that everyone knows what's going on. So with the, knowing that we're going to get clear guidelines, before the next meeting, I still, have some questions around the not-for-profit. So the non-for-profits is there a criteria as to when they got started, or is it could be any not-for-profit?
Yes, that one is assisting nonprofits in the city, especially those that are working with our youth, providing support to our community. They will be able and invited to apply.
Okay, so and they are not conscripted by a certain timeline.
No, they're not.
Okay, and then you just mentioned that it's not all nonprofits. It's depending if these nonprofits are working in certain sectors. You mentioned youths. What are all these sectors?
So the ones that are supporting our community, they'll be open to apply. Once again, is if you are a nonprofit that did not receive, because this is the main criteria, if you didn't receive a lot of support from other initiatives. Many nonprofits apply for PPP and receive good money because they have the right paperwork, they have the right history. So we're looking for those newer businesses that are managed probably for many of our locally that didn't get a lot of support. So we're going to be asking them, do you receive PPP? How much money? And all the initiatives that we have had so far, we ask those questions. Did you receive PPP? Was that forgiven? Did you receive the EIDL and receive the incentive? So we're going to be asking those questions, and any nonprofit that can provide supporting documentations that they are struggling, that they're providing good service to our community, then they'll be able and will qualify for it. Okay.
So I definitely have some questions on that, but on the helping the community, I think if you ask any nonprofit, they're going to say that they're helping the community. So how is it that we, the city, for this project, this particular grant, are going to define helping the community?
So we have to look at their bylaws to say, okay, what is the mission of this nonprofit? So as I mentioned, we have many that are supporting the youth. I don't want to say specific names, but supporting with sports and that are renting spaces. So we're gonna put guidelines and we can incorporate more details into that. I apologize that I don't have all the supporting documentation.
Sure. So what I think would be helpful is for more thought to be given as to the types of nonprofits, like what it is that they're working on. Because I think if we say helping the community, that is very broad, and like that's technically like all nonprofits are supposed to be doing some type of social good, and I would say that if their house in Lawrence, the probability of them doing that social good in Lawrence is probably is pretty high. So it'd be great to have those themes, so that way we ourselves can when this goes out, we could make sure, because I wouldn't want to send this out to all the nonprofits I know and then have some, come back, say, hey, this wasn't for me, or apply, waste time, and and it wasn't for them. So it'd be great to have those that more defined. And then you mentioned did not receive a lot of support. I think that has to be more defined as well. Like if one thing is saying nonprofits that did not get any PPE, or nonprofits that didn't get any type of support, but I mean they're receiving grants, so you can't say it that way. So I'm definitely looking for more clarity on that end. So I think that's super vital. The next part is, so who's doing the evaluation? Is it yourself?
So there will be a committee. Usually we work with different departments in the city to support, to define the guidelines. As once we work defining the guidelines, the economic development department is going to be accepting the applications, but it's going to go through different evaluations. So it will go through our finance department as well. So yes, it's going to be locally managed.
Okay. Do you think that we'll be able to you'll be able to define those guidelines, at least those broad strokes that I mentioned before the next city council meeting?
So that's the next meeting is next week.
Yes.
Yes, we can have it. We have enough
All right.
support and documentation.
Great.
And also we have the option to give the managing of the grant to many partners that are working with us. So we have the support to be able to run a successful grant for the community.
Sure. So I'm not necessarily like I think that the administration, you guys know which way it's best to sort of administer the grant. I just want to make sure that it's sort of we are transparent about the process, especially because so many people are in need. Ambiguity scares me, and I think ambiguity causes chaos. So I think that's great. Can you my last question is, can you talk to us about how you mentioned that you have a list of 80 businesses, but I'm wondering what work will be done to expand upon that? Like what work will be done to ensure that the community knows that this grant is available, if they meet the guidelines that we'll see soon?
Yes, so we are working on using social media. So through the different networks, so Facebook, the City of Lawrence webpage, the Business and Economic webpage is going to be updated. We also have WhatsApp. And one of the plans too is to use our local radio stations that people listen to promote these initiatives. Also, we are doing mailing and emailing our businesses, because thanks God we are working on requiring our business to register with the city through Citizen Serve. So we have a very good list of 3,000 plus businesses that are registered. So we're going to be sending that communication as well.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. No further questions.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. Councilor Rodriguez, did you have any questions or comments or motions?
Well, I just wanted to say a few things. I think that this grant is needed, since it's gonna be helping people that probably didn't get any support throughout the COVID and haven't get anything, most likely. And essentially there's going to be businesses that are going to close. So by us helping a little bit, they probably stay afloat, which basically is the target here. There is businesses here that open right before, within days of the COVID-19 pandemic, and they're unable to receive anything or produce paperwork that insurance ensure them any type of support, and that this grant will alleviate that issue possibly. Hopefully, that's essentially what we're looking for. Small non-for-profits. Well, there is a lot of non-for-profit in Lawrence, but I'm pretty sure there is not many that are that haven't received any funds. And if we clear on that, I think that the money will go to the proper people that are suffering. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Any further discussion or motions? Mr. Payano.
So I'm going to make a motion, but I think it's important. I just want to just push on the guidelines again. I think it's very important because I think we can't rely on assumptions. There's a city with like tons and tons of nonprofits that are listed. Granted, I'm not saying that all the nonprofits that are listed are actually, doing the work. And it's a time when people are in need. So the clearer that we are, the less work I think there will be on the city when it comes to evaluating and administering these grants, and the less issues that there will be with us. So I'd like to make a motion that we send this with a favorable recommendation, contingent on that we will be receiving guidelines with more specifications as to the criteria that the city is going to be using to evaluate the applicants.
So I second the motion, just to clarify. So it's going to be guidance in regard to the criteria of who's going to be eligible and how the non-for-profits are going to be eligible as well, right? That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, so Councilor Rodriguez, so Mrs. Encarnacion did mention guidelines. So it's one, the criteria for the small businesses and nonprofits criteria for applying, and the guidance that they have on the evaluation process. Like, how will they be evaluated? So how, like, one, who can apply to these grants, right? And making sure that it's clear who can and who can't. And then two, how will they be evaluated? Now, I think on our end, Mrs. Encarnacion, at least for myself, I'm not necessarily looking for like a lot of like specificity, like I'm to get into the weeds, but like just generally, what are the evaluation methods? Because at one point, we mentioned that, for as far as nonprofits, it's that they did not receive a lot of support, but we have no way of quantifying that. So it's important that if a not-for-profit did not get, let's say they got 5,000 instead of 10,000, and we then say, well, it was because you had more support than others, that we are able to explain what we mean by that.
I'll second the motion.
So the motion was made by Councilor Payano with a favorable recommendation, and requires the guidelines be provided by next Tuesday. It was seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, I'll call a roll call. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
What document? I just have a question on that document, if you don't mind.
2120, go ahead.
On the memo that I was sent from Mayor Kendra Vasquez, it says 2121 and written on the corner there. Is it 2121 or 2120? It says date January 28, 2021. Did you have that?
My gut tells me it's 2121.
Okay, no, because the agenda and the sheet that it was provided by from the clerk's office, it says 2120. So I'm just clarifying which one is it.
So on the official document on page 35 of 51, it is proper. My apologies, I'm reading the wrong one. Bear with me. No, it is apparently a typo, because it is Acting Mayor Kendris Vasquez, and it says document 2120. So if you would, please note that, Madam Clerk, so that that correction can be made tomorrow before anything gets advertised on tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so it is
2021,
21.
2021.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Yeah, it's 2120. So let's just proofread the rest of the document, make sure it's not anywhere else. And it looks like it's just that one place, but it's a very glaring place.
and on the agenda, yeah, okay.
Good catch. Great catch.
Thank you. I just had to highlight it. And, okay, roll call for document 2121. Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano,
Yes.
and Vice Chair David Abdu.
Vice votes yes.
Thank you.
That passes 3-0. Favorable recommendation.
Thank
With
you.
that- Thank you. Appreciate it. With that, that concludes the new business of the evening. Does anyone have any tabled matters that they would like to take up at this time?
I think that on that item that we discussed without talking specifically, I think that you can ask to put it on the as a all business on the agenda, and
Which
that way we can make further determination on the full council.
Are you talking about 28220?
Well, without mentioning it, but you know what I'm talking about because we're not supposed.
Yep. Will do. Any other business or motions? Even a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Come
adjourn.
on. Second.
There's a motion to adjourn by Councilor Payano. It was properly seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, roll call, please, Ms. Halloran.
Roll to adjourn. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano,
Yes.
Vice Chair David Abdu.
And the vice chair votes yes. This committee now stands adjourned.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good
Thank you to
night.
my colleagues and staff here this evening. Good night.
Good night.
Hi, everyone.